All right, so we're here today with Sean O'Neill. He's a partner at Chartwell Partners, which is an executive search firm, and they specialize, or at least certainly he does, in financial services, and also they look into succession planning, and he's had a lot of time doing that over the years. So, Sean, if you will, please tell us a little bit more about yourself. That'd be great.
Dr. Cyree, thank you for having me. This is an awesome platform that y'all are putting together to bring experts together. I shouldn't even put myself into the room of experts, but pleased to be here and hopefully add some value. We at Chartwell Partners, I lead a financial services practice. I happily lead the Southeast for us, being from Mississippi and being an Ole Miss graduate. Did accounting classes in this very building. It's very nostalgic walking through campus and on a nice fall day ahead of a big weekend. We do senior level, C-level searches, board, CEO and C-suite, as well as that next level down. I've recruited at every level of an organization, so hopefully I can add some tips for somebody kind of even starting out in their career right out of college, as well as somebody who's kind of thinking about how could I be better in talent. I've interviewed, I think, over 22,000 people in my career at this point.
Wow, 22,000.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And have placed about 800 of them. So I've done about 800 projects right now.
Wow.
I think is the count. 120 of those have been CEO projects. So it's a lot of data points. If I've just been half listening, which sometimes that's about all I can do.
Understood.
If I've just been half listening, I've picked up a few things on what people have done to be successful and some things that have caused others to stumble.
That's fantastic. Can you talk a little bit about the talent market in general, and then let's unpack some of those things that you can give us advice on where they've been successful, maybe
Sure.
less successful in these searches.
Sure. The talent market, I think anybody you'd ask who's trying to hire anyone at any level would agree. I mean, it's tight. I don't know what it was like 50 years ago. Apparently there was, talent just falling off of trees, but certainly those who have been in the workforce for 40 years are really going, where have all the people gone?
Yeah.
I know the recruiting industry as a whole is, it's hard to find people, particularly those who haven't recently made a move. I mean, you're thinking about historically low unemployment, right? So what a lot of people don't know is, if there's unemployment hovering just above 4%, which is where it is now, the college educated unemployment is usually around half of that. So you're thinking about 2%. So 49 out of 50 people who have an undergraduate degree are employed. So it's definitely not a buyer's market.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, no kidding.
And people talk a lot around banking, right? There's a gap of talent in banking, which, I mean, a lot of times I think about a gap referring to like there is a level of talent, ready to fill this, decades-long 80s into 90s period where people were not moving into banking. I mean, there's needs at all levels. I mean, there's succession needs at the C-suite, of course. I mean, that's more than anything that we do now is succession planning for somebody who is a CEO reporting to it. And then, as you go down, I mean, there's just not enough to go around.
On the succession planning, do you see typically it's for example, a family-owned bank and maybe the next generation doesn't want to do that? Is it people just looking to exit, all of the above? Where do you see those trends going?
It is. I think generally speaking, there have been a number of people who've really enjoyed their career in banking. I mean, it's a great industry. I mean, if you talk to individuals who've been in banking a long time, they generally love it. Mm-hmm. I think they generally love it a little less than they used to, though. I mean, I think all these changes, it's more difficult.
Yeah.
Right? It's more difficult. There's more competitors. There's far more regulation. Yeah. Again, talent is just about all anybody's talking about. How do we develop our own people when we can't find them?
Yeah.
So, in terms of what's driving that succession, I think that a big part that a lot of people don't talk about is the realization of boards and of that C-suite of kind of what is an A, a B, a C, or a D. And a lot of times they look at the internal successors and they're making what I would argue is a wise decision to not default to who's there and ready to raise their hand for the job. and actually start to go, okay, where is our organization really trying to head? What skills do we need in the next CEO to really run that strategy, let alone ideate it? And then they look at the internal people and go, I don't know that they've ever done it. And growth is the game in banking, right?
Yeah.
I mean, bigger is better. That is the mentality of just about every boardroom I've ever discussed the topic with. And generally, you look at your internal successors and go, well, we're a $1 billion bank trying to go to $2 billion. Well, our people have only seen from 500 to 1, right? 500 million to 1 billion.
Right.
And so that alone makes that person less appealing to the boards, which drives a lot of it, we find.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the challenges such as regulation, and I'm sure there are others too. For example, I know that during the recession, we saw a lot of people exit banking. So the person that might have just come out of college or maybe had 2, 3, 4 years experience, something like that, they're not in that middle tier now. So you look back and go, I'm looking for somebody with 20 years experience. Well, they left the industry because of the recession in 08. So can you talk about those type of effects versus, I mean, there's so much going on in banking. What do you think is driving, or maybe just the mergers and acquisition side of it too, where people are acquiring and then getting people laid off or something like that, or moving in a different direction? I'm sure you see all of it. But
It's right. I mean, there's a list.
Yeah.
The top ones that come to mind include, it's a regulated industry, and that creates some challenges, right? It also creates some competitive moats, which make it a really compelling line of work to be in for some reasons. It also creates a lot of challenge and a lot of right? There is a lot of you can't just dream up just anything in a bank and go do it.
Yeah.
Right? Because a regulator is going to make sure that you're fitting into the mission and complying by an ever-growing list of rules.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. It doesn't help. The cyclicality of any industry often will drive talent out, just like you said.
Yeah.
Right? Financial services is one that ties heavily with rates, and when things go, I don't see how mortgage organizations can refill their pipeline after letting go over half of their staff in down markets like they just were in. I mean, that's really tough.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that look up in their mid-career, particularly in banking, and go, well, I have an entrepreneur spit. I love helping entrepreneurs, which is a lot of times what you're doing as a commercial banker.
Sure.
They've learned enough to kind of be dangerous and go, well, I could put together a strategy to go buy a awning manufacturing business and stand that up. And I've got this client who did something similar to that, and they've been really successful. So their mind starts ticking. I think it's upon every leader in every industry to always be re-recruiting your people and remind them why you do what you do. Remind them of the great outcomes that are an effect of what the organization does. I think there's so much for banks to do to bring people in that they don't talk about enough, even from outside these are technology companies, right? There's no reason that we should be losing technology talent outside of the banking industry as we have, because there's a ton of technology needs here. I mean, it's become one of the most technology-backed industries in the world.
Sure.
So you just have to be proactive about it. There's quite a few reasons, unfortunately, that we've lost talent.
Speaking of that too, it was only a few years ago that people would talk about kind of the fintech revolution and innovation that might displace bankers, and there wouldn't be any more banks in 10 years. Well, turns out that model didn't work out too great for most fintech companies. Some are certainly doing really well, and I think the fintech industry and the banking industry figured out if they partner together and maybe do some things that help, that's probably a better model. So do you think that new avenues of product and service delivery, such as fintech, has created, I know it's created a bigger challenge, but is that something that you think is driving the lack of talent, or do you think it's more the cyclical things, or where do you think the biggest challenge is in all of that?
So I think there's a ton of disruption happening now and in the future. If you've even been on ChatGPT, you can tell. I mean, it is wild what is capable now from a technology perspective. That's certainly impacting banking. I don't think it hasn't removed a lot of jobs yet. I think that there are industries that are pulling, that are tied in with AI and other technologies that are pulling that in terms of that are pulling talent out. I don't think it's as dramatic yet. I mean, fintechs versus banks and where that talent is, we don't see a huge outflux of talent from community banks, particularly. I mean, certainly larger banks are dealing with that struggle more, right?
Sure.
JP Morgan's
Sure.
tech engineers are getting picked on a lot more than fill in the blank, Southeast-based regional bank.
Right.
That said, there is there is an attitude sometimes that I feel and notice, particularly of boards and trickling on down, of almost this eye rolling. When will these fintechs go away? And there is a lot of unfairness and regulation that needs to catch up for this to be a sustainable environment for both parties to play in.
Yeah.
However, for now, I think that thinking about how you can partner with and utilize that to better serve customers, and then just think, what can a fintech not do that we can, right? And that just gets around to the core of really community banks, right? Knowing your customer, spending that time to build a relationship, being creative, and a lot of times it still takes a human to come up with those creative solutions. Admittedly, AI can help, but that's where I think you can really make an impact.